I've been on a kick. I know you're going to roll your eyes when I say this. I've been on a huge Steven Wilson Jr. music kick.
I'm fucking out.
Now, no. Okay, seriously. Like, the way that me and Alicia found him, I think it was Thanksgiving night. We were home, the kids were in bed, we were just kind of hanging out in the living room. She was getting ready to go to bed. We usually just kind of like scroll through YouTube and just whatever we pick is what we pick. So like we were listening to some music and I saw one of his songs pop up that he did with Hardy. Well, yeah, he did a song with Hardy where Hardy played one of his songs with him, like one of Steven Wilson Jr.'s song called Father's Son. And phenomenal version of that song. And so I was like, damn, this guy's good. So naturally you kind of like look for more of his music. And I clicked on one song, it's called Hang In There. And we listened to it, and me and Alicia are literally sitting on the couch and recliner respectively, sobbing. Because that song will hit you in the feels so hard. Especially if you're somebody that has lost somebody.
I'll listen to it.
Yeah, it's a rough one if you don't know what you're getting into. And a lot of his songs are like, his record is called Father's Son. If you know the backstory of it and you listen to the lyrical content, it's pretty clear what a lot of those songs were about. And what I wanted to talk about in regards to that is sometimes, and it's the same kind of thing where, the gifts that I gave you and your daughter are those very, personable gifts that, you get emotional over and you kind of don't know, you know how to feel, but you don't know how to feel about you, if that makes sense.
I get where you're going, yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's those gifts that you will hang that up somewhere, and every time that you look at it, you'll think of your grandpa.
Well, yeah, but I'll also think of you.
Well, yes, but it's, and same with the ornament that we got Adelaide is, every year now when you guys set up your Christmas tree, now
I
she
get
has
to deal with a waterfall, yes.
she has that, and she gets to, it's a special thing.
Right.
So, as some people who have had big losses in our lives, mine being both of my parents, yours being, your grandfather.
Well, and the other two.
And the other two, yes. But the most recent one, the fresh. Sometimes I find myself listening to either music or finding music or something that makes me think of them, or something that I find, whether it's something that Lydia says or something that we do with Lydia, or like I said, mainly it's music that comes on that really gets me. And at first it gets me, it makes me cry, or parts in movies, stuff like that. But it turns into something a little more than that. For me, when I listen to Steven Wilson Jr. and I on a big kick of his, when those songs come on, I don't get emotional anymore. It kind of has turned into something that maybe helps a little bit. It eases the pain in a way, or it turns into a happy memory versus a sad memory.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird thing where I don't really know how to put it into words, really.
Well, I don't think it ever really isn't sad. I mean, because a perfect example for you, you have Steven Wilson Jr. and Granted, he's very talented.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. He's also married to the singer of Sixpence None the Richer, so that
wait, really?
yes, that doesn't hurt
Huh.
with things. Considering I believe they did "Kiss Me." I love the bearded part. Yeah, that girl.
Oh, wow. I didn't
Right.
know that.
Fact check me, but I'm pretty sure. So there you go. I actually did do something for you with the whole check him out. That aside, for me, and this is a very specific story, it was Luke Combs.
Yeah.
And Luke Combs has a song called "Even If I'm Leaving."
Yeah.
And it's all about, I don't want to go, I have to.
Yeah.
Even if I do, I'm still with you.
Yeah.
So I backtrack like last winter around Christmas time. Actually, I think it was for Christmas. I bought my grandfather a radio,
Yeah.
like an AM FM radio.
Mhm.
Looks like an old vintage radio, and it had like a little turn dial in the front. He couldn't fucking work it at the time because he was all but bedridden. But he wanted a radio so he could listen to Froggy.
Yeah.
And I took it into him at Christmas time. We put it on Froggy, and he used it here and there. And eventually he didn't because he spent some time at the hospital before hospice started and all that. And, when we realized that it was kind of that time, the one thing that came to me was like, well, I wonder if it would be comforting for him to have country music on, because they start to get to a point where they don't really have a lot of indications of awareness, but the understanding of the studies is that you are very, very much aware until your final moments.
Yeah.
Like even well beyond the time that you can communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And I put it onto Froggy. And as soon as I dialed it in, that was the song that was on.
Oof.
And I'm standing there in the nursing home and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Because I'd never heard the song all the way through before. I'd heard parts of it.
Yeah.
And we had talked about perhaps covering it when I was playing back with the band, and I was just like, okay. For the next month, it was damn near daily, whether it was shuffle, the radio, what it was, that song.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, coincidence, sure, maybe more.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't say. No one can. Certainly seems like that. We would want to think it's that.
Yeah.
So today I hear that song, and it came on actually on shuffle a little bit before Christmas. There's still sadness there. Nothing brings them back.
Yeah. I mean, there's like every time I hear, like Father Son or Grief Is Only Love or Hang in There, like my immediate reaction is just like, oof, like that initial like, oh boy. But as I listen to it, like those feelings go away, and like that, it's almost like a comforting feeling.
Well, yeah, and that's what I was going to say, was that even though there's sadness there, as time progresses, there is this other feeling that enters the picture when you think of them, when you have that, and I want to call it gratitude.
Yeah.
For having had that time with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
As opposed to just saying, damn it, it's done. Focusing on that, you start to learn to really, truly appreciate what it was, which is sad because most of us should appreciate that while they're here.
So that, you really hit that there is, when you do lose somebody that has been that significant in your life, whether it's a parent or, a grandparent that you've spent a lot of time with or whatever it may be, when it first happens and you're in it, like there is no pain that will ever come close to that pain. Nowhere near.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes probably a good year for that to kind of start to ease a little bit. Because the thing that happens is you start to heal and you start to grieve, and once you start getting that out, it starts to get easier. But then you have these little things that, as you're going through their things, or, maybe you see a movie that comes on and you're just watching it and there's a part that you can relate with that comes in and it just takes you right back to that. And that pain starts all over again. Like, it takes a good year to kind of, like, get out of that where, like, things can start to, like, you can see those scenes in movies or hear those songs and it's not as gut-wrenching. It still hits, but not that hard gut-wrenching feeling.
I'll say that it, like, and it was kind of, I kind of feel like it was weird for me, but in most situations that I've seen like this and that I've experienced, it's been like a year that you don't really feel unbearable about it anymore.
Yeah.
Some people it's longer.
Yeah.
Some people,
depending on, like, I guess it would be like your level of sensitivity or, your mental, how you kind of get over things, how you grieve, how you deal with things, and how you come to terms with it and everything. That doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, and also, like, I mean, the degree to which it redefines your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
If you're, like, living with that person and taking care of them every day, that looks a little bit different than if you've moved out on your own and, you go see them once a week, or even in my case, they're being in a nursing home and I go visit them once a week. Like, it still impacts you, but if I was still their active caretaker at that point, like if I was his point caretaker, that redefines my entire day. That's just, like, that's going to take its toll.
Yeah.
Or like with my other grandparents, like I'm going to use an example of my dad. They lived with him. They lived together. I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Because that's, his mom and dad, and that was very sudden and unexpected, and that's been, I think, 3 years now, and I would still say that it's probably pretty unbearable some days.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody, I've lost both my parents. I mean, my dad, I lost, I think it was before my 21st birthday, 2000. Yeah, it was a couple of months before I turned 21. And, at that point in my life, it hit me, yes, it was really tough, but it was different at that point because I wasn't really established as an adult. I didn't have kids, which that changes it by so much. Because with my mom, I had my daughter. She watched my daughter. They split days throughout the week with her grandparents and my mom. And, that my daughter was her everything. Like, me and everybody talk, like my siblings, my wife and I talk, and we truly believe that she hung on as long as she did because of my daughter.
No, I don't doubt that.
And, there's another, dealing with losing my mother and how that feels is one thing, but watching my daughter go through that is something that I don't think will ever truly heal, because she still, has these moments where she'll be, pretending and playing and stuff, and, you can hear her and how, she says things, and she'll say something, about my mom, or her Nana is what she called her. And you'll hear her say something, and it is just immediately, almost immediately tears. No matter what it is. No matter when, you could catch me in the happiest mood, you could catch me in the worst mood. The minute I hear that or I see it, it's just like, oh, God.
It's hard.
It's tough. But having those songs and things that you can latch on to, it really does help. And it, in a weird, with my dad and dealing with that, I think it's harder now because there's a lot of, there's a lot of what ifs. How would he be with my daughter? How would they interact? How would he be with my son? How would they interact? How would he I bet he would love me being a member up at the hunting camp that we used to go up to that I grew up at, and hanging with the guys and going out hunting to the spots that we hunted. Like, all of those things are these big what ifs. But you listen to these songs, about fathers and sons or things like that, and how you kind of start to realize how much you start to become like your parents.
Or not like your parents.
Most kind of fall into extreme, but if you had a good relationship with your parents, most of the time you do end up becoming more like your parents.
Well, yeah, I mean, humans are creatures of habit.
Yeah.
If you grow up one way, that's the way you know.
Yeah.
Like the Mandalorian, this is the way.
As you grow, to reference some Steven Wilson Jr. songs, because they truly have been something super impactful in my life, really. I don't think I've ever had a musician kind of impact me in this way. It's one of his songs that we listen to is called "Grief Is Only Love," and there's a line in that song that resonated with me more than any lyric in any song ever. And he says, "Grief is only love that has no place to go." So think about that. You have all of these feelings about the person that you've lost, and they don't have any place to go. You can't give these feelings to anybody except that one person. And that is pretty much the definition of grieving, is figuring out how to feel about the loss.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think death is probably the realest thing that we ever confront.
100%.
You build a life around concepts, ideas, feelings.
Just being alive,
stuff.
really. Being here, being there.
Well, what we understand it to be.
Yeah.
Consciousness.
Yeah.
Which is the point that I'm trying to get to is yes, grief is love because you love that person.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also the absence of reciprocation in that. The fact that you're going to love that person, but you're never going to feel their embrace.
Yeah,
it's.
But
the
think
impact.
about what that embrace gives you. It's basically an exchange of feelings. It's
right.
I'm giving you the feeling that I love you and that I care for you, and this and that. And when they're hugging you, it's the same thing. So it's these feelings, but now you have all of these feelings that just have no place to go. They have nowhere to go.
Well,
and you can't ever give those, you can give those feelings for somebody else for sure, but it's never going to be like that person.
No. And that's what I was getting at was it's that finality.
Yeah.
That we don't really have with anything else, because even in the worst terms of closure that we understand for a living person, that's not closure.
Yeah.
In context of losing someone that you love, because there is no rewind. There is no I'm sorry. There is no hey, can we try again?
It's just an abrupt stop.
Yep.
And now you just have to figure it out.
Yep.
And I think that's why it makes it so tough, is because we can't fathom just
well, we don't understand what they feel.
It's a weird feeling. Dude, it's been 2 years now, coming up on 3, that I've lost my mom. I still have these weird moments where Bronson does something, or Lydia does something, or I'm doing something, and my first thought that pops into my head is I should text her and tell her. She would get a kick out of that.
You should.
Well, somebody else has her number now.
Don't text her.
Well, yeah.
What you should do is you should make it a diary or a journal, and you should give that journal to your kids.
I don't think. I don't know. I think that would mess me up a little bit in a weird way. I don't know. Like, so she got Lydia a book for Easter, I want to say, or maybe it was her birthday. I can't remember. But she gave her a book, and it's called Because I'm Nana. And it's a book that basically, like, it kind of tells the story of, like, what a Nana does. Like, they help you, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's a kid's book. You read them. But we have it up on top of the gun cabinet where we have, like, that little, like, setting there. And it will stay there. I can never read that story. Right. Ever.
Sure.
Can never do it. I feel like that would be the same kind of thing. Is like, I don't have the self-control to not, like, read the things that I've written beforehand, and reading those things that I would write beforehand would just destroy me. I'm a weird kind of guy with that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know. Like, I can listen to these songs and... Oh, my wife bought that book for my mom. So never mind. It's a weird thing, cuz, like, I'll go back to another Stephen Wilson Jr. song that it's Father's Son, and it's a song that he wrote about living in his father's shadow. He was a boxer with his dad, and that was, like, their thing that they did. And he's a junior, so his dad was the senior. And they, his father was, like, a well-known boxer in the area or whatever, and he just kind of felt like he was living in his shadow, and he wanted to just get away. And every time he tried to get away, he was just drawn back. And now that his father's gone, he realizes that he's proud to be a junior. Like, the shadow's gone, and now he's the one casting the shadow. You know what I mean? Like, he's now his father's son.
I mean, that's an interesting take.
And it's a weird, like, for me, like, I never felt like I was living in my dad's shadow. I never had that resentment of being a third. But with growing up, I had different interests. I did hunt, I did fish, we did that together, baseball and stuff like that. But as I got into my teenage years, like, I kind of left that stuff behind to take on music and stuff like that. And he supported it, but it was not something that we could really do together. So we kind of had this weird, like, not a drift apart, but our interests didn't align. And, now that he's gone, and I've become an adult, I think. Maybe not, but as I grow into, a man, and my interests have changed. I still like music. I still, play games and stuff, but I'm starting to take interest back into those things that I used to do, where I enjoy going out and fishing. I enjoy going out hunting. I enjoy just going up to the cabin and just hanging out, relaxing. I like going to the races, and I watch Penn State football and Orioles baseball and stuff like that. So I'm starting to, like, take more of those interests that we could have shared, had he still been here. And it's literally the title and the lyric of the song is "Goddamn, I am my father's son." Like, you don't realize it as you're growing up, but as you get to your adult years, like you start to realize, like, shit, like that. I guess I am, yeah. Probably not for everybody, but like, that's
Well,
for me.
no, I mean that makes sense. At the same token, I invite you to consider what your father was like at the younger age when you weren't like him.
Oh,
Because
he
you
was.
knew him when.
Yeah, he. I mean, he was still. He played softball for his work. Um, he went. He would hunt with his friends and fish with his friends and party like a cowboy.
So my point is that I'm sure he was different at that age
Well,
than
yeah,
he was
surely.
when he was your father.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things where it's like we kind of progress through phases
Mm-hmm.
as a human. So
Yeah.
yes, we are like them, but at the same token, it's almost set up that way where it's like, okay, you're old as fuck now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not going to be out on a stage headbanging, swinging a fucking axe around. And,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
not to minimize that, just saying like there is a degree of that. I think the more important part is that thousands of people hunt,
Yeah.
but you go to his hunting club
Yeah.
and you know the people that he was with.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go up there, you see his name on the wall.
Yeah.
Those are the things that tie you there, not just
And
like the abstract
I see,
hunting.
you know, I can picture it like it was yesterday, you know, the bunk that he slept on, the bunk that I slept on, all the guys that are no longer here that went up to the hunting club, you know, all those guys, all the carrying on we did outside, the way it used to be. Like it truly is like a little time capsule up there. And it is really something special. And I have this feeling up there where that I don't get anywhere else. It's a place that I can go where I can truly just like breathe. I can just let go of everything and I don't have a care in the world. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm not stressing about anything. I am just there and there only. It's the only place that I get that.
You ever been to the block? I'm kidding, but no, I mean it's yeah, it's a wild thing. One of the principles of physics,
You Science magazine reading
just for you, is that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, only transferred. So in saying that, the energy that possesses our bodies through our lives is not created at birth. It is transferred from our parents, from what's around us, from the food we eat, from the things we do. So in death, I think it would be remiss to consider that it is simply destroyed.
It's just transferred.
The question there is, where is it transferred to?
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of people follow faith for that. They follow different beliefs. You have Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Buddhism. You can name tons of religions and people who hypothesize on what the final state is. But I think the one thing that we collectively can accept is that we may not be here in the same way, but we're still here. And maybe maybe you could argue that it's not truly us, it's just the energy that was us.
Yeah.
But there's an awful lot of curiosities that lead me to believe that we retain that consciousness in a way.
I mean, you could make an argument of like remembering and having the like recalling those memories and stuff is that energy. You know what I mean?
Oh, sure, part of it, but literally The electricity that runs your body has to go somewhere.
I guess, yeah.
And I think that the reason I said that is because I think that's part of what makes loss so hard to grieve, is because as humans, we're blessed with this consciousness, this ability to think and feel and understand. And the thought or the idea of that not being there, we physically cannot comprehend.
Yeah.
It's not just like sleep. We understand sleep to be different.
Yeah.
There are those of us who have been in comas, or those of us who've had a lot of different issues where it's involved unconsciousness, and it's not the same because it's final. And just the idea of, well, I have all these thoughts and I go to sleep and I dream and I do this and I do this, and it's evidently nothing like that because my body ceases to function. So what is it? You can't comprehend that. And you're trying to understand that your loved one is now in this state, and it's like, I want to know what they're going through. I want to know what they're thinking, how they feel, what I can do. Can I do anything? There's tons of questions, but no answers.
Yeah.
But the one answer that we do have is that we loved them and they loved us, and that their time here was invaluable. And regardless of where they are, at least I know that when I depart, in my case, I will be sitting to the left of Lucifer in hell. But, I mean, if there is a hell, I guarantee you I've earned my spot. But, I sit back, and I spent Christmas morning by myself in my house in the living room with my grandfather's urn on the corner table. And we just had a conversation. Weird as shit. At that point, I was just kind of like, you know what? If this is Christmas, fuck it, why not?
Yeah.
He didn't answer. That was actually a joke I made later that day. I was like,
Yep.
yeah, I spent my morning talking about a grandfather. He's not as talkative as he used to be.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's one of those things where it's like, if you can do that, if you can still have a conversation with somebody, even if they don't answer, you know what they're going to say.
Yeah.
They're still there.
There's multiple times where we always joke about, what my mom would say in certain situations. And, we'll say it to, like, my siblings, or we'll say it out loud, and we're just like, yeah, that's...
Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, and I'll tell you what, the day that I hear a fucking answer, count me out. The armory is open, and we're fucking figuring out what to do. If they come back as a zombie, I'm sorry. I love you, but I love my brain.
So, is there one thing, whether it's super sentimental or something just outrageously silly, that somebody that wouldn't know would think was silly, that makes you just immediately think of your grandfather, or something that you cherish super tight, that maybe someone would think was like, what? Or, something that they could understand? Like, is there something that you just immediately, like, if you will take it anywhere, wherever you go, if you move, that's the first thing you grab, or what have you?
You mean like material thing?
Like a material thing, like something that you cherish, that just, like, if something happened to it, you would be devastated.
I mean, it's not mine. I don't think it was intended to be mine. But we'll get back to that, but I want to preface that by saying that just being on a golf course does that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we played, I think, our first round last year, like, the weekend before he passed, and then I have to be honest with you, first couple rounds after that were like, oh, shit. But I knew that's what he would have wanted me to do.
Yeah.
The only material thing, I mean, there's a couple of them. Like, he has a black jacket that he used to wear, and then there's his, he has a York Revs jersey with Pop on the back that we got when we went to the season that was sitting in, it was up at, in his closet that we have. There's a box of stuff I got from the nursing home that still sits in the same place. That didn't sound good. There's a box of stuff that I brought home from the nursing home that still sits in the same place where I sat it last year when I brought it home, because I don't really have a place to put it. I don't know where to put it, and I'm not really all that worried about it because it's in a safe place.
Yeah.
But there is one thing, one material thing that would be like, yo, grab this.
Mm-hmm.
So my grandfather was not in communication with his kids for a while before he passed.
Scoot your chair up just a smidge.
Why am I knocking shit over?
Basically, you're about to, yeah.
Okay, cool. And there goes the fucking phone. Okay. But anyway, so his one daughter did come to visit him.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about a week before he had passed. He passed on Sunday morning, so I guess this was like Monday prior. And she brought a little dog, like this little stuffed dog with him. Mm-hmm. And he held on to that, had it in his pocket whole week. I mean, like up until the end. Like when I got the call Sunday morning, I think like 4 o'clock in the morning, woke me up. And they told me, I was like, yep, kind of figured. Drove up there, got up there probably at 5:30. Walked in, it's there, and right there in his hand, that dog. So, obviously, be cordial. First thing I did was reach out to her. Do you want this back?
Mm-hmm.
We all knew where it needed to go.
Yeah.
So that's probably the one thing where it's like, he held this his last week,
Mm-hmm.
all the way until the end, and now she has it. It's in her bed. Did I send you the picture?
I think so. Yeah.
That little one.
Yeah.
That's it.
I didn't know. I didn't have context to what it was at that time, but now that I do, yeah,
that's
that
what
makes
it
sense.
is. So I mean, that's like the one thing. I mean, there's other stuff like.
There's always stuff that you hang on to that you just can't let go, but if it were to go missing, you'd kind of be like, well, it sucks, but it's not the end of the world. Like, we have a lot of like really sentimental things from both of my parents. So my mom actually gave me his wedding ring.
Is that what you're wearing?
This is his wedding ring. And
I noticed that. I don't know if you saw me looking at it, but
yeah, this is his wedding ring. So it's actually why I bought Alicia a new set, because mine was my wedding ring was a tungsten, and it started to feel bulky. I didn't really care for it as time went on.
You bought her a new set?
And yeah, so hers was silver. The engagement ring and the wedding ring was silver.
But
so
she had to match you.
She had to match me, so I ended up buying her a new set. And so there's that thing. And then
that's cool.
My mom also, one Christmas, she knew that I wanted his necklace that he always wore. It's a St. Christopher necklace, and he always wore it. It's like every time I picture him, he would always be like in the chair. He always had kind of like athletic sweat shorts in a way. He always had like shin high socks, and he'd always have like no shirt, and he'd be sitting in his recliner watching, whatever he decided to watch, NASCAR, a football game, old Western, whatever. I always remember that necklace. And one Christmas, after he had passed, I had gotten a gift that I opened it, and it was his necklace. And that is one thing, like that for me, that's my thing. Like, I wear it every day. I never take it off. And it's one thing where if that were to go missing, like if I were to take it off and misplace it, I would be overly devastated. I wouldn't know what to do. Then my mom, before she passed, she told us where certain things go. And she had a necklace that she would wear that had a little angel. I think it's an angel on the front. And on the back, it has an engraving that says, "I'll always be with you." And she said to give that to Lydia. So we have it in a jewelry box upstairs. And we are, when we think that she's responsible enough, we will give her that necklace. And she already knows about it. She knows who it's from. That is one thing where, like, if that were to go missing, would be absolutely devastated.
Wait till she's 18.
And also, my mom wore a lot of rings. She had her engagement ring, she had her wedding ring, and then she had an anniversary band. And she told me that we were to split those up between everybody.
Got a jewelry saw?
So, well, we took them off. When we noticed that her hands were starting to swell, we took off her rings.
Well, I mean, you said split them between everybody.
Well, we like.
Oh, you meant
the girls.
Ah.
So, we kind of had a discussion between everybody of like who wanted what, and the anniversary band was to go to Alicia. So that Alicia wears that on her right hand. And that's another thing, like, be truly devastated if that were to go missing. But, we have a bunch of little things too. Like, my dad had this brown leather jacket. I think it's a St. John's Bay jacket. He has these little, like, steelworker pins on it, and like just random, like a pin on here and like maybe one or two pins here, and I have it hanging in my closet. I never wear it.
Do you work at Bethlehem?
BAE, United Defense.
The one in York?
Yep.
You know what they build, right?
Yeah. So, like, I have an attachment to that jacket, but I would be a little sad if it were to disappear, but I don't think I would be truly, like, at a loss for words.
Is that a bomber jacket?
Kind of, like, doesn't have, like, the fur in it, but it's like a brown leather jacket. And
badass jacket.
It is pretty sweet, but I'm not here's the thing about it.
You couldn't pull it off.
That, and I wouldn't take the pins out.
Well, you shouldn't.
I couldn't.
You
and
shouldn't.
Funny enough, on my armoire in our bedroom, I have my hats up top. I have he had the Spring Grove baseball hat that he also has pins in. I still have that. It's up there.
That's awesome.
And I think I have one of mine too from when I coached with him. And those are just two. I think I even have a throwback one that's like from when I played t-ball. I still have those, and it's just like,
that was a long fucking time ago.
Yeah, and I don't think I'd ever get rid of them. I just like to have them. I don't know. It's interesting, like weird little things like that. And we have like little knickknacks that were from my mom's house that were set up and stuff like that we wouldn't miss, but it's every time we kind of set them up, you just kind of have that little like, you know what I mean?
I mean,
you get the little chuckle with like the remembering,
That's the hardest part of grief.
Just like the material things.
Well, no. But they play into it. It's that whole concept of You know you'll never forget them.
Yeah, and I mean, you shouldn't.
You don't want to.
Yeah.
Over time, they're going to cross your mind less and less.
I think it depends on how you deal with that grief. I think that, like, for us, we think about them the right amount. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, I have songs that come on or moments that just happen to come in on a TV show. Like, there was, what was it? There was a show that we just watched. I forget what it was, but there was a couple episodes where this woman found out, like, one of the family members of the show found out that they had pancreatic cancer. And, like, it was a whole, like, couple of episodes, and we just skipped over it. We were just like, let's just find, like, we couldn't watch it. We were like, this is too, like, too close to home.
So it impacted your intended plan.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, is that, like, if you think of it from the perspective of that person, yes, they want to be loved, they want to be remembered.
Yeah.
They're more worried about you.
Yes, 100%.
So
like, they don't want you to be sad. They don't want your life to be put on pause. And I would never say that our life was ever put on pause.
Right, but 30 years from now, like, the day after someone dies, it's all you're thinking about.
Oh,
a year down the road, a couple times a day, daily, sure. 30 years from now, what are the odds that it is a daily thing? Because I've seen people where it's not.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, maybe it's all dependent on your relationship with that person.
Well, absolutely.
Because, you have the people that want to forget and they want to move on. But then you have the people that want to hold on to that forever. And I think me and my wife are in a unique situation with that and our kids, because we're raising our kids, and they have her parents, and they also have their great grandparents as well. My side, there's only my aunt and my siblings. That's it. So for us in that regard, I think it's going to be like almost a daily thing for a very long time, because as our kids grow, as especially as my son grows and we start to do things, especially things that me and my dad used to do, whether he plays t-ball or he wants to go fishing and hunting, and I take him up to the cabin and we run around up there, and we watch the home movies up there, and I get to point out that's your papaw and stuff like that, and also my son never got to meet my mom, so like we get to watch home movies and stuff, and I get to point them out and get to tell them all about them, and like my childhood memories, and Christmases and birthdays and stuff like that, and I think it's probably going to be all but a daily thing for the foreseeable future.
I'm sure. My point was that coming to terms with that loss means that you've accepted it, that their legacy is in you.
Yeah.
As opposed to having to, revisit that memory. Sure, yes, it's going to come to your mind, but it's not going to be a hurt.
Well, it's always going to be at least a smidge of a hurt.
It's
there's
always going to be the absence. Yeah.
There's another Stephen Wilson Jr. song to bring it kind of full circle. There's a lyric. I believe it's Father's Son. The lyric is leaves behind a legacy, but hope for a better ending. shit, I can't remember. But basically, it's just like saying that his legacy carries on to him, and then he gets to leave behind his legacy, but hopefully with a better ending. You know, it's unfortunately his father passed away suddenly, and now he lives on through him, and then when he has a son, he will live on through him, and it's like the legacy carries down, but hopefully, you know, it's not him passing away suddenly. Hopefully it's him getting to live to a comfortable age to just naturally pass away, and that doesn't, you know, translate to his son, or, you know, that kind of thing.
I mean, that's an interesting perspective. I can definitely tell you that sudden losses are worse.
It's
Not so sudden losses aren't really any better.
No, it's
a weird paradox there.
It is, because you all like I'm sure the people in each position wishes they were the other person, because you know, the person that had to watch as they slowly degrade and you just watch them slip away slowly, you almost wish it just could be immediate. But then the people that have it immediately would rather be like, I would have rather had more time.
I mean, I can tell you about it from both perspectives, because my one set of grandparents died in the fire, and my grandfather I watched die for like 2 years. So
yeah, I guess that's
it was
true.
like, okay, both hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there was definitely more shock factor to the waking up to a voicemail from my dad that's like, "Hey, your grandparents are dead," and it's like,
I hope to God that was not the voicemail.
I'll let you hear it. Maybe cut that part. But yeah. I mean, it's like, you know, 3:30 in the morning. I'm like, fucking what?
Yeah.
So definitely bigger shock factor, because similar timing, like nursing home calls at 4 in the morning. Hey,
I mean,
happened. It's like, okay, I was prepared for this, kind of. It still hurts.
That's the thing, is you'd kind of like, the people that get to watch it, you're expecting it. You're like, it's gonna happen any minute now. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen, and you get in your head about it, and you're like waiting for it to happen. But then when you finally get the call, or you know, the situations for me were very different. Like with my dad, I was on my way home. My friend at the time that lived with me called me and told me that he had passed, and I was pretty much right near home. And with my mom, crazy way that it happened is we were all at the house. We were all in the room. She was in a bed in the living room. We all were there. And we had actually decided that we were going to go down the street and get food. We went down the street to get food. I think my other siblings stepped out of the room. My brother was there. That was the only person. And he wasn't saying anything. He just sat there. And he noticed her breathing change. He called all of us and said, "Get in here now." We were actually getting in my sister's car, because we took her car because we were all parked in. We got in her car. We raced home. We ran in the house. We all were right around the bedside. And we watched as she took her final breath, as a collective. And to say that it was better would be silly, but to have that memory of it happening, like, you know, before I would think about it and it would be a sad memory and it would be, you know, a painful memory. But now it's just a memory. And like it's a story that, you know, when I tell my kids or when I tell it to somebody, you know, about when we, you know, I talk to people sometimes about, you know, deep shit. And
Oh, you do that?
sometimes, yeah.
You must have other friends than me.
Well, we've talked about it all. So,
Fair.
you know, it's a thing that I talk about, and it doesn't make me feel any certain way. You know what I mean? Like, yes, it's obviously sad, but it doesn't make me feel any type of way.
Yeah, it's
But like Christy said here is, you know, her mom has been gone for 16 years, and she thinks about her just about every day. So, you know, my dad's been gone for 13 years, and my mom is coming up on 3. Like, she's still fresh, but it's
maybe pick better words.
it's still a fresh wound.
It's still new.
Yes.
New. New is a
Yes.
better fucking word.
So I just want to leave off where we started. That's not the thing I looked for.
Listen to
Is
Stephen Wilson Jr. He's good for grief.
basically, yeah, but
TLDR.
there's one song in particular that kind of touches on everything that we just talked about, and he hasn't released it yet. He has performances of it online. It's called I'm a Song. The story behind it is, I think, makes the song that much better. So he wanted to be a songwriter. That's all he wanted to do. He didn't want to be a performer. He wanted to just write songs and have other people perform them. So he had this demo, and he played the song at like a songwriters thing. It was like a get-together or whatever. He played the song, and his dad listened to it, and he said it was his favorite song ever. Not his favorite song that his son wrote, his favorite song ever. And so when his father died, he played that song at his funeral. The strength that it takes to do that on a whole other level, I could never do that. Ever. Could never perform that song ever again. But, and it was the song that he said, well, why don't you sing songs? And he said, that's not how it works. That's not what I do. I just write them. I don't sing them. And during one of the performances, he says, you know, this is the song I'm going to play. It's called I'm a Song. He said, it's my dad's favorite song. And he said, he kind of tells a story, and he said, you know, I told him that I don't sing songs. He said, but I'm going to sing a song. And he plays that song. And the song is just lyrically probably one of, if not the best song that I have ever heard. Because it really touches on every aspect of everything. It's written from the perspective of a song. So it goes through and it says, you know, I was there, you know, the first time you got high, the first time that you drove, I was there for your first breakup. I helped you realize that, you know, she wasn't the one for you. And like, I helped you when your friend died. I helped you turn him loose. I helped you cry. This, like, it touches through, like, basically everything that a song does for anybody. It helps you through fun times. It helps you, you know, it's things you could party to, things that help you grieve, things that, you know, help you get out of the funk that you're in, whatever the case may be. It's an incredible song. I don't think I've ever heard one that has really, like, it gives me goosebumps every time I hear it, because the way that he words it is just masterful, and the way that he conveys the perspective is just top notch. If you need something to listen to, and if there's anything you could take away from this little segment, it's listen to I'm a Song by Stephen Wilson Jr.
All that, and that's what you want to leave him with? Did he pay you?
No.
Are you sure?
No.
Because we said a lot.
He's been on repeat in my headphones. Anytime I listen to music, he is the one guy that I'm like, I'm just going to put Stephen Wilson Jr. on.
Starting to get a little worried.
I think the story that he has and about the album and about how he became a songwriter just...
Are you Google imaging yet?
No.
Okay.
No.
You got to let me know if that starts. We'll have to stage a coup.
Yeah, do a little research. Listen to him talk about his story. He did a thing.
Me?
No, not you. The people.
What people?
The people that we're talking
like
to.
Two out there.
One
of them already listens to it.
He did a thing. It was called Live at the Print Shop, and he does an interview where he talks about his story and how he became who he is, and then he was also on Bert Kreischer's podcast that he tells a little bit more about it that maybe he didn't tell in the other ones, but fantastic artist. Give him a listen. It's Andy should be worried. Oh, Andy, should I be worried? Give him a listen. He's fantastic. And if he's not for you, I can understand why. He's definitely not the typical artist in his genre. He's not.
Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash.
He's not. See, I don't know. I wouldn't. Maybe a smidge, but I don't. I don't know.
If Mitch Hedberg were a musician instead of a comedian. He's super talented, but just I don't know the way he carries himself. It's yeah.
That is definitely not how he carries himself. He's an awkward,
yes,
just a real weird guy.
Super, reserved, quiet. It's like if Kurt Cobain and Johnny Cash had a baby, even though they're two men, and then you added in, Mitch Hedberg with the glasses and the hair. And then, threw in a dash of Hardy because he's an amazing songwriter.
Yeah.
And then, drizzled Connor Oberst over it. And gave it a cowboy hat.
Yeah. Give him a listen. I promise this isn't a paid ad.
What the